And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Andy Shallal, founder of Busboys and Poets.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I want to thank Neil and Arthur. You guys are amazing. I agree the world is in good hands with the two of you and so many other friends and relatives here. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a real long time since I graduated from college, so it's really fun to be in a group of graduating people. I can relive those moments vicariously through you. I want to begin by clarifying one thing. Oftentimes people call me a businessman. I am not a businessman. Let me make that clear. I find the term businessman very confining and very claustrophobic, not to mention cold. So it is nice to be around so many people who call themselves entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs. It is social entrepreneurs who are the ones that create businesses that will change the world, as you said. Social entrepreneurs combine what they are passionate about with what they are good at. It is social entrepreneurs who invent things, create things, rethink things. It is these entrepreneurs that think about sustainability, about community, about stakeholders, not just shareholders. It is entrepreneurs who transform an economy into an ecological system with interdependence and accountability. It is indeed entrepreneurs that make the difference. It is social entrepreneurs who ask the question, what impact can I have on the earth? What impact can I have on my community? What impact can I have on the stakeholders that I have to serve? Finally, the field of entrepreneurship is getting its due with such programs like this one here at Georgetown University and many other programs all over the country and all over the world. In these programs, you learn to use words like create, like words like nurture, revolutionize. Your mission statement explicitly invites you to dream and to build community. How refreshing. You are business revolutionaries. You take the status quo and you turn it on its head. You don't just invent a new way to fish, you revolutionize the fishing industry. You ask tough questions and you're not afraid of change. In fact, you live for it. You are making the world you want to see because you recognize that the status quo is unworkable and unsustainable. You are powerful, often unpredictable, and always passionate. Did I miss anybody? I got everyone. Good. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and most importantly, what inspires me. I was born in Baghdad, Iraq, and I love this country, but I find U.S. foreign policy, especially as it pertains to the Middle East and Afghanistan, abysmal. I believe that mixing your personal convictions and business is the key to a happy and balanced life. And no matter what they tell you in business school about not mixing politics and business does not fit into my belief system. I studied pre-med and attended medical school for 1 semester. I quickly realized that medical school was not for me, so I quit. And I embarked on my journey as an entrepreneur. I say journey because that's exactly what it is. It is a journey with lots of scenic routes, a journey without an itinerary, a journey of discovery and constant change. So the first advice that I would like to give new entrepreneurs is not to be afraid to quit. Resilience is overrated and often misunderstood. And quitting, when you know when to do it, is an art form that you need to perfect early in your career. Learn to allow yourself the luxury of quitting. It's the most liberating experience you'll ever know. It will save you a lot of regret later in life. I want to remind you that most of your learning will happen outside the classroom. After I left school, I packed my bags, or I should say bag, and traveled to the West Coast. I quickly ran out of money, so I got a job waiting tables. I can honestly reflect on those years and know that these were the most pivotal years of my life and where I did most of my learning. I learned a lot about life and about business while waiting tables. I learned that you shouldn't judge people by the way they look. I learned that sometimes the best tippers are the worst dressed people. I learned that oftentimes the people that will work you the hardest would tip you the least. I learned to budget my finances and make sure that I didn't spend more than I take in. I learned a lot about cash flow. I learned that I love to serve people, that I was actually good at it. I learned how to multitask and how to set priorities. I learned that saying no was not an option for most people and that anticipating needs for the customer is the key to getting a great tip. I learned how to lead, and more importantly, I learned how to follow. I learned to embrace failure and adjust my compass once in a while. I learned to listen to my gut and to trust my instincts, and to realize that the one trait that has worked best for me throughout my journey is flexibility. The ability to bend, adjust, fine-tune, and sometimes let go. I also learned about the value and importance of people skills, something I later learned was called the emotional IQ. And throughout the time, of course, I learned a lot about restaurants. Most importantly, I learned a lot about myself. Working as a waiter also allowed me the luxury of dreaming, and I did a lot of that. I read a lot of fiction, books like Skinny Legs and All, and a book that, probably one of my favorite books, called A Confederacy of Dunces. I've tried to stay away from self-help books or how-to business books or books that ask you to visualize success. I don't write sticky notes on my bathroom mirror saying things like, "Be happy today," or "You are amazing," or "Visualize success." I think that The Secret is a bunch of corny nonsense. I think that the 7 Habits of Successful People is irrelevant to anyone other than the people who practice them. Now, many of you know Busboys and Poets is named after Langston Hughes. I came to know the poetry of Langston Hughes at the age of 13. I loved his honesty and authenticity, and I love how he was able to speak truth to power using his poetry. He was a social entrepreneur and my personal inspiration. Hughes lived in Washington, D.C. in the early 1920s and worked as a busboy while writing poetry at a local hotel. In the fall of 1924, the young Hughes was working at a hotel where he spotted the well-known poet Vaughn Lindsay. He slipped some of his poetry next to the plate of Vaughn Lindsay. Vaughn Lindsay read the poems and was so impressed that the next day he announced to the AP that he has just discovered a busboy poet. Now, the times of Langston Hughes were difficult times here in America. Times of Jim Crow, times of lynching and McCarthyism. It is somewhat disturbing how recent this history is. When my family moved to Virginia in 1966 from Iraq, there were laws still in place prohibiting blacks and whites from marriage. And just because we elected the first black president does not mean we are post-racial. Far from it. Just look at Arizona's new immigration legislation, listen to a Tea Party convention, or witness the tragedy of Phoebe Prince, the young teenager who took her own life because she just couldn't take the harassment from her fellow classmates anymore because she was different. As a young teenager coming from another country and culture, I was thrust in the center of this country's racial legacy. I was considered neither black nor white. "What are you?" my fellow classmates would ask me. I didn't know how to answer and spent most of my teenage life trying to blend. It didn't work. At the beginning of each school year, I would fit squarely in the black category since I had spent much of my time in the sun during the summer break. By the end of the year, my skin became lighter and I could pass as white. I experienced racism firsthand and vowed to work against it. I recognize that racism is the foundation upon which this country was built, and it is embedded in its DNA. I wanted this country to live up to its values and ideals, those values of liberty, of fairness, of justice for all, not just for some. It is the reason why my family chose to immigrate to America and the reason behind Busboys and Poets. What makes Busboys and Poets work is the authenticity and connection to the community. We pride ourselves with having the most informed clientele in the city. We take on some of the most contentious social problems of our day: racism, xenophobia, homophobia, and other topics. We have some of the best poetry programs in the country, including our award-winning open mics, poetry slams. We even have American Sign Language poetry, literary poetry, poetry for youth, and poetry for the LGBT community. Above all, it is a labor of love for community, and an affirmation of the human spirit. Now, I know that social entrepreneurship alone cannot change the world. But at the corner of 14th and V, or the corner of 5th and K, or at Shirlington, here in Washington and in Arlington, we are helping to nurture a local community of artists, thinkers, poets, and dreamers to imagine a better world. I want to leave you with one of my favorite poems of Langston Hughes. I dream a world. I dream a world when man no other man will scorn, where love will bless the earth and peace its path adorn. I dream a world where all will share sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. The world I dream, where black or white, whatever race you be, will share the bounties of the earth, and every man is free, where wickedness will hang its head, and joy, like a pearl, attends the needs of all mankind. Of such I dream my world. Thank you very much.